We all know that climate change is real and urgent. The tragedy for rural Australia is that the government still has no adaptation strategy, no transition plan for helping rural communities and farmers to stay on the land and maintain their viability. It is not good enough in the midst of the drought to rush out with an Akubra hat and a relief check and pray for rain. The Greens have been arguing that what we need to do is overlay the climate maps with the traditional agricultural maps and then identify the areas where traditional forms of agriculture may not be as viable as they once were, and then find ways of farming something else. And renewable energy provides us with that opportunity. We now can take renewable energy out to rural Australia, where there's a happy coincidence between where there's an extreme of drought, there's also likely to be extremely good solar energy resources. We have already got, as a Greens policy, a very strong target for emissions reduction. We have got a 25% target for renewable energy by 2020. In order to achieve that, we need the rollout of these technologies. And so we're adding to our campaign promises in terms of our mandatory renewable energy target, 25%, a promise of feed-in laws to guarantee a price over a fixed period of time for renewable energy. And now we're saying, let's take renewable energy development zones to rural Australia. But let's not impose it on rural Australia, let's do it in consultation with communities in rural Australia who want to make a transition. Ararat in Victoria, for example, has already identified a renewable energy park for manufacturing of renewables and energy efficiency equipment. But this is different. This is saying, let's change from what we're doing, let's adapt by farming renewable energy. We would, with the scientists who already know where the best resources are in terms of renewable energy and the industry itself, go out and talk to local government in those areas, talk to farmers groups and work out where we could find the best examples of renewable energy in the places where they're most needed. And we would organise to work for pre-permitting of the planning, because that's one of the biggest problems or barriers for renewable energy around the country. And secondly, we would then provide the grid. We would take the interconnectors to the grid, out to those areas, and we would pay for that with some of the money generated from the sale of permits under the emissions trading scheme. So essentially the polluters pay to put in the 21st century infrastructure that will take renewable energy to the nation, will keep farmers on their land, keep rural communities viable. They're already doing it in California, we could be doing it in Australia. We have got some of the best brains in the world on renewable energy in this country, and they're leaving to go overseas because in other countries they appreciate you need an internally consistent policy regime to roll out renewable energy and address climate change. So this is good for the climate, good for rural Australia, great for innovation and research in this country. So I would urge people to think seriously about the need for real adaptation to climate change and to recognise the old parties have let the nation down, and the Greens are out there saying we want to work with rural Australia for a great solution to two big problems: the extreme drought, climate change and the need to roll out renewables quickly. Thank you.